Hello and welcome to the fifth video in the Market Failures at A-Level series. And this video is just going to kick off by looking back slightly in 4185. I had a question recently from a student who'd found these diagrams in the book and had questioned where P2 had come from. Now, essentially, this particular diagram is kind of a step ahead, if you will, and it's kind of suggesting that what we want to get to is P2. In order for Q2 to be achieved. And if we just remind ourselves here that Q2 has come from the fact that the marginal social cost is equal to the marginal social benefit at Q2, so that is the desired allocation of resources. Now P2 has been put on there, but how could we get there? Well, probably the most popular way here would be for a subsidy on the production side, so therefore shifting the MPC equals MSC curve out to the right enough until it meets this point here and creates a new equilibrium at P2. Excuse me. Alternatively, you could also increase demand by shifting the MPB curve out until it equaled the MSB curve, and therefore you'd have you'd eventually get to equilibrium at point B here, and therefore you could do that by informing people, for example, or educating people, and therefore they would demand more of this good. Obviously it's a merit good, and instead then you'd have an equilibrium at point B and the price point would be up here. Okay, so there's actually two ways of dealing with this failure, but because they've put a price down here, I would suspect that if they were to carry on with this diagram, the next step would be for the MPC equals MSC curve to shift out to the right until it found a new equilibrium with this MPB curve there, and therefore making the allocation at Q2. Also on this one here, the opposite demerit goods, we've got the same thing. You've got this P2, so it's suddenly appeared, and even though it's slightly off kilter here, the dashed line, it's all about trying to get the level of quantity to Q2 from where it is currently at Q1. So again here, probably the most popular thing would be to add a tax to producers, which would shift the MSC equals MPC curve in to the left, and thereby reaching that point there, point C, and obviously then P2 would be the equilibrium price in the market. Alternatively, you could also educate individuals and therefore reduce demand inwards until a lower price point were achieved at Q2, and that lower price point would simply mean that it wouldn't be supplied as much. Both methods would be effective in reducing the consumption of demerit goods. I should also say that Welker in his video does actually go through those two methods, in fact, of lowering the consumption of demerit goods, or ridding ourselves of the externalities which are currently in play with the overconsumption of demerit goods. So do check those two videos out. Just moving on and sort of until we get to the final video here, 4186 is actually an old AS part. It's called Market Imperfections, and apparently at AS, if I'm going to jump to this slide here, at AS what you would have done is pretty much all of this, but these here are the other market imperfections that 4186 refers to. So what have we got here? We've got monopoly. And obviously we know from our market structures days that monopoly can be abusive on the consumer side and overcharges and undersupplies certain goods in its pursuit of profit. So monopoly can be a form of market failure. Obviously it's far less efficient and we end up with a big loss of welfare. And then equally these two here, imperfections of imperfect information and immobility, well, they're actually both labour market imperfections, and that's why they're here, even though we've covered them in much more depth at A level, when you do a lot more with labour markets, and obviously you do a lot more with market structures. So where it was 4186, it's basically a regurgitation of what we've already done in market structures and and labour markets. The other thing just to remind yourselves, of course, is that inequalities in the distribution of income and wealth is also an impact of labour market failure, because of course it is the wage differentials that is the major cause of inequalities in the distribution of income and wealth. So this is quite a nice little list for you to get to know, of course, and be able to draw diagrams, lead on diagrammatic analysis, and offer examples for all of these occasions where markets fail. And it's not just product markets, as we see here with the classic AS market failure, but also in market structures and with certain companies, and also in labour markets down here as well. Okay, so hopefully that wraps up 4186. The final two are 4187 competition policy and 4188. 4187 competition policy is entirely designed to combat really the effects of monopoly and monopoly power. Now remember, a monopoly is a company that owns nearly 100% of the market. A pure monopoly would own 100%, but don't forget that oligopolies can exhibit monopoly power. In a way, they're powerful, and we can say that they have quite a lot of monopoly power, depending on how much market share each oligopoly, or rather each oligopolistic firm owns. Okay, so monopoly power is just a way of saying, how powerful is the firm, whereas monopoly is an actual market structure that you need to be aware of. Competition policy, we did quite a lot on this, on restrictive trading policies, practices rather. We did mergers, and we did monopoly law, and we looked at how the government quango was looking to work to reduce monopolies in the market. So competition policy is basically a lot of solutions to the problems that monopolies bring. And then public ownership is, 4188 is the kind of final section before my last video. And public ownership, is provision. So that is in itself is a form of government intervention designed to cure market failure, particularly missing markets that you get with public goods. Privatization and deregulation are both designed to make markets more competitive, and again can be used to combat monopoly and the inefficiencies that monopoly bring. Whereas regulation is another form of government intervention, and quite an important one on market failure, particularly on the production side with pollution, and perhaps controlling a solution to controlling the overconsumption of demerit goods. So hopefully that wraps up where 4187 and 4188 are in line with market failures. And don't forget that we did cover both of these when we looked at market structures earlier on in the course. Okay, thank you.